Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Powerhouse Fence Show. Today, I'm joined by Aaron with Coulee Tech, and we're going to talk IT, AI, cybersecurity, things along those lines, and just kind of run through the history and talk about where we are now and what we can do and practical uses of AI and threats of AI. And we're just going to go down that rabbit hole and see where it leads us. So if you're interested in that, hang around, check it out, and it'll be a good time. So we do have some sponsors here on the show. Memphis Fence Company, Simpalo, and Balgard Strategies Group are our sponsors, and we have several partners listed across the bottom of the screen here. We have Fence News, Fence Industry Publication, still comes out in the big book like a newspaper if you're into that kind of thing. We have My Salesman, which is a lead qualifying software. EZG Manufacturing, they make the big orange equipment that you see at all the trade shows, and the Thornton Fence Consulting Group. Consulting, pretty self-explanatory, right? So all of these are people that we believe in, products that we use, and we like to support our friends in the industry. So thank you all for being here. As always, we do it for you. If you have any questions or feedback or concerns or anything like that, feel free to reach out. This show is not live, although Facebook will lie to you and put the live up here in the corner. It is actually not live. So just keep that in mind. But my phone number is still on the bottom of the screen, 901-878-4987. You still can use that number to call, even if this show is not live. So that's it. I'm going to skip some of the intro stuff just to make it a little bit quicker, so we have more time to hang out with Mr. Aaron. So as I figure out how to bring him on, because, it has been a while since I've had a guest here on the show. I don't remember which buttons to push to make it work right. But we're going to bring him on and say hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, Aaron. Thanks for joining us. And so I have this, I have his page queued up here. And you did hear me correct that he has his own bio on their website. And so you can go check this out, but I think it's pretty cool, right? So he's a real professional. He has his bio out there, and you can go see his coaching profile and like schedule him to come speak and things like that. It's pretty impressive stuff, man. 100%. And we'll get back to that, right? Because that's part of what y'all offer as your AI business maturity model, right?
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah. So we'll jump back to that here in a little bit, but first, let me go through this intro that you sent me, this bio. All right. So jump in anywhere you want to say more, feel free. But Aaron Libner from Coulee Tech is a business growth strategist, an AI evangelist, a cybersecurity advocate. He helps organizations turn technology into a competitive advantage, and we all need those competitive advantages. Aaron is the president of Coulee Tech's, how do you say the town? Eau Claire?
Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Eau Claire, Wisconsin, which I will tell you is spelled E-A-U and then Claire. I don't know how O comes out of E-A-U, but hey, let's roll with it, right? So Eau Claire, Wisconsin market, and you're the chief acquisition officer of Coulee Tech. So Aaron has 20 years in business-to-business sales and leadership. He helps organizations. Implement cybersecurity, modernize IT, implement an AI in ways that are actionable and not overwhelming. Aaron regularly presents across the Midwest, making IT and cybersecurity accessible to real-world leaders. So that's what we were talking about with the speaking engagements. He is president of Fierce Freedom, which is a nonprofit that combats human trafficking, and active member of the Eau Claire Chamber and Rotary. His mission is to help organizations grow confidently through secure, practical technology.
Whew. Yeah, there you go, Dan. You did it, man.
That's an episode.
All right, we could drop the mic right now. We can head off. Sunset this thing.
That's crazy because I think about how would I introduce myself, and I'm like, I'm Dan. Hey,
Well, there's tools to help you out with that, Dan. So you can put some stuff about you, and then make a nice little formal bio for you.
All right.
Not that's what I did or anything, but
So I've done that with ChatGPT just for fun. And I tell it to make me like some absurd, over the top, ridiculous bio, not like an actual professional one because I want to do things that are fun and silly. And so I make these like just crazy bios, and it it gets very creative and very entertaining, I'll say.
I always like to start conversations a little light with people, especially people newer to AI, and just put in there, just go to whatever one you want to choose, whether it's Gemini, through Google or ChatGPT or whatever, and just you say, hey, put in there, what do you know about me? What do you know about my, whoever you are? And it's pretty amazing some of the stuff it can pull up on there. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
we're all out there, whether we like to admit it or not.
Hmm. Yeah, and especially after you've used it for a few years, right? So like I still use ChatGPT. I've not swapped to Claude. I know. But I still use ChatGPT just because I have that like attachment, right? Where I'm like, man, I've used this thing for years now and it knows everything about me and it knows how I want it to respond and all of this. And I have that like transition anxiety. I don't know if that's a real thing or if I just invented it, but I definitely am afraid to move because it's not going to know me anymore, right?
It is true, though. I've kind of felt the same way, and I actually don't use Claude really much at all, just on occasion. But both of our counterparts that we interact through AI with, Rod, who's the CEO of Coulee Tech, him and Tim are big Claude users. So
Yeah.
it just depends on preference and what you're doing. If you're doing a lot of heavy code stuff, Claude's the 10,000-pound gorilla in the workspace. So
Yeah. So Opus 4.8 was released on Cursor today. So I haven't tried it out yet, but I'm pretty excited. So
I
I
got there's some feedback. It was we got a peer group that was out there running, and part of the big things that people are excited about is cost came across the same cost as some of the previous models. So that's what people are really excited about. So and it's performing above and beyond the previous models. So it's not only the same cost, but it's also performing above those other models. So,
so
and for those, and I think for people maybe who are listening and they're like, "Oh, these guys are talking about AI. AI is freaking everywhere. Like, what are you guys even talking about?" Like, when we talk about models, think of it like your 2024 Ford F-150, your 2025 Ford F-150, and then when you add in the different packages of the Fords, whether it's the King Ranch or the LTD or whatever it is, all of those are just different models, and they all have different features. So, and if you got any questions, the best thing to do is always just ask the question to AI. What's the difference between the models? Like, what does it do? It probably is going to be easier just to ask whatever questions you have and you're trying to solve, and play with the different models and then see how they respond differently, and whatever one you like is a lot of times what people like to stick with.
yeah, so you can go to what AI Arena is the one that I normally go to. And you can like face them off head to head in different questions and you can see how different models respond. And you can also go in there and just see the massive amounts of models that exist now. It's insane. Of course, you have the big ones, right? We all hear about ChatGPT and Anthropic or Claude or whatever word you hear about that one. But man, there's hundreds of them. And even if you go into so like we've been talking about Claude and Opus 4.8, right? And so even if you dive a little deeper into that, you'll have Opus 4.8 fast and then standard and then thinking and then maybe like deep thinking and like there will be different versions of it. So here's what I like to think of. Okay, when I'm trying to figure out cuz I'm an amateur, right? I'm a super amateur in the AI world and
We can agree to disagree on that, but
the this is how I like to think about it. I like to think about uh, an agent is like a thing that does work for you, right? So if we'll talk about a robot, so the agent is the body of the robot, and then the model is the brain that operates the robot. And then you give the robot tools and skills and stuff like that, right? So now you put a tool belt on it and you hang a hammer and a drill and a screwdriver and stuff like that on its tool belt. And so that's kind of how I visualize what all these different words mean. Cause I've been building my own agent for, I don't know, several months now and playing with that. And like now it has a whole tool belt full of skills and full of memories and knowledge and rules and all this kind of stuff that it didn't start with.
And how long have you? Okay, and I think it's good to frame for the audience. How long have you been interacting with AI for yourself?
So I was your basic Chat GPT user, right? For, I don't know, a couple years, a few years, right? I'm not sure when I actually signed up and started using Chat GPT. I know I wasn't like first on the bandwagon for sure in 2022. I was probably like in 23 or maybe 24 when I started with Chat GPT. And then for as far as actually like getting into understanding what agents and models and tools and like actually using a real agent. So I only started building an agent probably like 2 months ago. And before that was Chat GPT. And then, I had access to like exposure through the stuff that I do with y'all with Coulee Tech, and started kind of seeing more stuff there. And then, I mean, I had used tools like, Replit is one, right? That is kind of like your no code app builder type of tool. But I tried to use those several times and build some stuff and just kind of played around with it. But to answer your question, I think within the last 6 months is when I've really gotten pretty serious about it.
And this isn't your profession, right? I mean, your day to day, you're a fencing business owner, entrepreneur. That's your bread and butter. What you've been doing for how many years?
Oh, since I was born, like I've been in the fence business
Yeah.
my whole life.
So, for me, I come from I have a little synergy with Dan on this. I came from the building industry and a building supplier, and I did that for 12 years. I had like 3.5 years with a staffing firm, and I joined with Coulee Tech in 2020, and I have probably a little bit longer time in the AI world just because of my exposure to my counterparts who've really been leading the march on it. But again, the majority of my life's experience is not in AI, but the way AI has become available to us and how you can present your current knowledge and have it applicable to what you're trying to learn using AI, you can very quickly become experienced in using AI. You don't have to have the multiple decades of experience in an industry like you have in previous times. And I think for listeners, that's something to realize, like, just because you've been hearing it for the last couple of years and you haven't jumped on the bandwagon and maybe you're feeling like you're behind and you can't catch up, I don't think that's necessarily true. I think you have a little bit of catch up to do, but there's still so many people and probably competitors to you who are not doing what they could be doing with it, that this door is still open for you to get in and get going on it and just start using it for something in your day to day. The monotonous tasks that are out there, the flyers you need created for the trade show, the policies you need for the business you're doing or starting or whatever it might be. There's so many resources you can do with AI these days.
So check this out. What if you just open up Chat GPT, Claude, whatever it is, and you just say, hey, I'm brand new to AI. I've never used it before. I want to spend an hour a day, an hour a week, 2 hours a week, whatever that is, learning and implementing AI wherever it makes the most sense to start. And then just like tell it that, right? And tell it you want it to hold your hand and walk you through the process and give you step-by-step directions and explain that you know nothing. And, maybe even tell it like I'm, not very confident on computers. I use only my phone. Like, give it your kind of tech level, and it will guide you. It'll
100%.
it'll like take your hand, and I mean, it'll spell stuff out for you. So, like I said, I've been using, building my own agent for a few months. I guess I started playing, like I said, I've used some coding tools and stuff like that. And even with those, they'll be like, oh yeah, you need to go do this thing. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Right. I have no idea what those words mean that you just put on the screen. So give me very simple step-by-step instructions that I can follow. And then I will go do the thing you said I need to do. And so, I mean, I definitely am a big advocate for just like telling it, hey, I'm ignorant. I don't know what you're talking about. Break it down for me.
Yeah. And if what it's doing is still not to your knowledge, I like to tell people utilize hobbies that you're familiar with or things that you do know. It can make the correlations to what you do know. So it frames it in a way you will understand it. The beautiful thing of AI is you can do it, you can have it set up to teach you in the way you learn. How many of us went to school and weren't textbook learners and had to read those big fat textbooks that they threw in front of it? That's not me, man. If I would have had AI to learn some of the subjects I had to do through school, I would have probably been a straight A student all the way through. And,
Right.
would have probably been because I was using AI to get some of the answers. Yeah, probably true. But the reality is that whether we like it or not, this is going to be fully integrated and is already significantly integrated in multiple aspects of our life.
Hey, and let me just throw this out there to the people that are afraid of Terminator. That's going to happen whether you are a part of using AI or not, right? If this Joker grows and turns into Terminator robots that are walking around, you're not going to stop it by not using ChatGPT. So you may as well enjoy the privileges and the perks of using it up until that moment whenever it goes crazy.
Well, whether or not we throw governance around this or restrictions, or we look at the bigger picture, say we think as a nation for the United States that we should just stop using AI. The counterparts that are in the other foreign countries aren't stopping it. Whoever leads the march in this revolution is going to win the race for many decades to come, and maybe even for the long run. So we need to stay in the march. That's why we always we get in and we do these podcasts, speaking engagements, trainings, coaching groups, because we really feel like Coulee Tech, we need to do our part to help the business industry, not just the fencing or building world, all industries, to get ahead of this march as much as possible and use it for what they can. And there are discussions about doing things securely and whatnot. In those areas, I definitely recommend you lean on, the professionals who are familiar with cybersecurity to help make sure you're secure and not exposing your business to things that you shouldn't, and having discussions with your employees that what is acceptable and what's not acceptable, so you don't have what we call shadow AI incidents where they're putting company intellectual data or personal information into an AI that's then putting it out there in the learning world. So you got to be smart a little bit with it, and that's where you got to find the partners who are using it, get the feedback from that, and then also make sure you're secure as well.
So I know with ChatGPT, I have the business account, whatever that's called, I can't remember. But basically, we set up an organization, then we can invite users to it and stuff like that. And I know every time I go on there, down at the bottom of the page, it says that basically nothing that happens in these conversations goes back to OpenAI for training or for any other purposes. As where if you don't have that business account, and even if you have the $20 or whatever a month package, then your data is still going back to OpenAI. So just keep that in mind with all of the stuff that you put in there, like he says. It's being used for training models for sure.
There are ways you can depersonalize things. Instead of using names, you use ID tags or things like that, and those are pretty quick workarounds to help mitigate some of those things. But yeah, it just got to be smart with it for sure. So
So real life, are we actually going to do that? Like, I know I am not. I'm not going to go in there. I mean, I might just say hypothetically, this person's name is Jim and not give them the last name, or just use some code name or something like that. But I I don't really see myself going through the trouble, or I never even would have thought of that. And so, not your idea is solid, right? But I will say what I would do is I would get the business account, or I would talk to my IT people and be like, "Hey, I want to do this thing. How can I do it and make it safe?"
100%. Yep.
And take one of those two paths, because that seems way easier than making up code names for everybody that works here. But if I did, I would definitely have to be 007.
Nice. I'm not shocked to hear you say that.
So, man, I've been working on some really cool stuff. I'll just talk about so Coulee Tech built Simpalo. Like, that's how our relationship started. I don't know, back in 2020 or 21 or something like
Yeah, it's a couple years ago now. I think it was with late discussions in late 2020, and then we started in 21, if I remember right.
Yeah, something like that. But man, it seems like it's crazy that it feels like a long time ago. It feels like a lifetime ago almost, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so we started back then. And of course, as with everything in my life, I started at the wrong time. And I should have just, waited a little bit, and I could have saved like 90% of what it costs to build Simpalo when AI got to where it could do useful things. But like I said, that's how I roll. But anyway, so now I do have AI developer tools provided from Coulee Tech for Simpalo to make sure that it's on the up and up, and they oversee all of that stuff and try to keep me from making a mess, but I still figure out how to do that. So what's really cool now is I have the agent that I built that I've been working on. And because I have the AI developer tools with Simpalo, I can take both of them, and I can take my agent and I can say, "Hey, I want you to do these things in Simpalo." Right. And it has credentials, it has its own username and everything in Simpalo on my account. And it'll go in there and it'll do whatever I tell it. And then I say, "Okay, what would make it easier for you to do that?" Right? If it's struggling with something or it takes too long or whatever, then I say, "What would make that easier?" And I say, "Give me a prompt that I can give the AI developer." And then I'll take from the agent, give to the developer, and then the developer can change Simpalo to allow the agent easier access and more efficient access and all of that. And that's been really cool because I have both sides of it, right? And I can manipulate Simpalo to accept what the agent's trying to do. And so now there's, man, even in like the project chat that's in Simpalo, just yesterday, I got it set up to where the agent is in the project chat. And so if I ask it a question about a specific job, then it has access to everything, all the plans, all the specs, everything about that job. And it can look through it and it can say, "Oh, yeah, you need to do this." Right. And also, my agent has access to what we're saying right now because I have a vector database that is built of all of the transcripts of this podcast. And so it uses 100 plus hours of me talking as a database to go pull data from too. So it kind of knows how I think and what I expect and all of that. But anyway, really cool. If none of that made any sense to anyone listening, understand that I have an AI tool that helps me build Simpalo, and I have an AI worker that helps me do things in Simpalo. And I've linked those two things together and keep working on that and keep trying to make it better. So
I think this is a good segue. So to kind of give people the framework of what where you're at in your business maturity and where maybe a lot of other people are at. So I think if you don't mind, I'll kind of go through the AI BMM model a little bit.
Let me see if I can, for sure. Let's try to understand what that is a little bit.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to see how this works here. All right. Share screen. Am I going to select? All right. Window. There we go. Navigating stuff live here is always it's like Russian roulette a little bit here. So
that's why I'm a professional. I had mine queued up before.
Okay, right. So I am. There we go. Sweet, cool. We got everything. I got mine queued up too. Just, I see what you mean.
A hard time.
Yeah. So when we were for both the last couple of years, we, at Coulee Tech, we've had two different publications. We had one, which was just a basic book on AI, talking about the cool things you can do and image creation and some things like that. This last year, or I guess 2 years ago, we put out this book, AI Unleashed, which I am a #1 bestseller of. Rod never got that, so I like to brag about that.
So you are the #1 bestseller, not the book.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, book, I guess the book is, but it's my book. So,
Okay, nice.
yeah. And we interviewed, 13 different area professionals about how they're using AI. And if anybody wants a copy of that, we'll get some contact info added somewhere that people can reach out and do that. Or they can go to Coulee.tech and ask for a book through that. So Coulee.tech. Anyway, we were going through and doing a lot of training and education, and people are like, this is great. I still just feel like lost, and I'm not sure where I am in this AI world. And so we spent the time last fall and into the early parts of this year putting together this AI business maturity model. And this really highlights the different areas and stages people are at. For the first level, we have the AI drifter. And that AI drifter, think of that as though you're doing your Google search and you get the AI synopsis and it tells you a brief summary on that. And or you're in Facebook or YouTube and the algorithms bring your content that you're interested in up to you. That's kind of your AI drifter exposure. So people who are just kind of coming across it just in by happenstance, they're not necessarily looking or seeking it out for assistance. And one interesting fact is, for a lot of years, SEO, search engine optimization, is something businesses have focused to get business driven to their websites. And as soon as they search engines like Google Chrome specifically added that AI synopsis when you go in and search, only about 7% of the audiences move forward to go to the next level from there or go into the site. Most people are now getting the answers they're looking for within those AI synopsis.
So you're saying only 7% of people go further than that AI synopsis. So 93% are using the information that's in that AI synopsis.
Right, which is, if you were using any of the AI models and you're searching the business or you're searching a service, it's really being more content oriented versus search engine optimization oriented. So where our websites were kind of more limited in the content you exposed and you're focusing on keywords or terms to drive traffic to your site, now having multiple pages and pages expanding on services that you do and drilling down from the services into the brands you're talking about, all of those things get the AIs, when people are using them, to point more towards your business and then get people to your sites from those exposures. So
let me just throw this out there to anyone listening. If you have somebody that is working on your website, you might want to have a conversation with them. If you built your website 7 years ago with some builder tool, you probably might want to think about putting some work into it to make sure that it's optimized for AI, because that's also a thing too, right? Aaron is optimizing it for AI to pull data from your site to be able to use you in those kind of responses.
Yep, AEO is the term for that. So artificial engine optimization or artificial intelligence engine. I don't know, there's so many terms out there, how it's acronyms and all this wonderful thing. But a quick and easy way that I tell a lot of people that I know locally and interact with when I speak is put in, how does my business show up? Or if you want to see how you show up from an industry perspective, ask, hey, I'm looking for a fencing contractor, a roofing contractor, a painter, a realtor, and then see who shows up. And then ask further questions. Why are they showing up? And why didn't I show up if I'm not in the top 5 or 3 that the AI picks? And so
maybe do that in like an incognito window. or a private browsing window or whatever, right? Not logged into your account. Because I feel like if I go ask ChatGPT about fence companies, it's going to be like, hey, dum dum, you're a fence company. Why are you asking me?
Yeah, sometimes it does. It actually, it's incognito window would be a good way to do that, because you got a free accounts you can access and use in a lot of these different AI models, whether it's Gemini or ChatGPT. So that's one way you could do it if you really want to be super focused. But I've done it with realtor friends that wanted to see how they showed up, and or maybe a good use case of this, instead of you doing it, you could ask somebody who's not in your industry to search your service and see how you show up, because
Right.
then it's not going to hit. So anyway, go through that, and then you kind of just keep drilling down to a point. Once you get the pieces that are making these businesses show up instead of yours, create a 90, 120 day, whatever kind of a plan you want to focus on how you optimize that, and then work with your either website builder or find a way to update your website yourself so it's AI optimized. So anyway, we got kind of down a squirrel hole there, but it's important for people to realize the SEO is not the trigger mechanism anymore necessarily to get your business out there, and
So
that kind of tied back.
I'll say that anyone in the fence industry, you got Clever Fox and .com and brand builders, right? So there's several people in the fence industry that do that. Um, I .com does ours. We pay them every single month to do our website, memphisfence.com, if you want to go look at it and judge it. But I am 100% fine and confident with spending that money because I know that they're staying on top of all of that. Anyway, go ahead. Let's
All right, so we'll move in here to the level 2 area, which is your prompt operator. So that's your people who are using ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude. They're asking it for policy creations, image creations, flyers, strategic plans, um, figuring out and working through complex thinking situations. You can go into the weeds on that. That's your level 2 person that's there.
Yeah, so it sounds like that's a little bit more than a person who says, "Hey, make this email sound professional."
A little bit more. I mean, that person's probably be between a 1 and a 2, in all reality. But if you're using ChatGPT or Gemini, you're in that level 2 area.
Hey, I just got like 40 Teams notifications in a row right then because I put my AI agent in our Teams chat and gave my team access to it, and it's really cool to watch them try to figure out how to use it and like learn what it's capable of. And then so this morning somebody asked it to do something, and it takes it a minute, right? When you ask it to do some complex stuff, like you got to wait a minute. But we as impatient humans, we want it to take 17 seconds or 4 seconds or whatever. And so this person that asked this morning started talking some crap about it not working, and then all of a sudden it goes boop 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 boop, and it spit out all the information, and it cracked me up. But anyway, that's another thing that I've done with my agent is now our team has access to it. And so I've been trying to basically show them examples of how I'm using it and then let them just play with it and make mistakes and try to figure it out. And that's been really cool too. All right. Sorry. I
For
know
sure.
I keep,
No, you're good. You're good. It's we're excited about this topic, so for us
yeah.
it's kind of easy to talk on. All right, level 3 is what we call agent builders. This is where Dan is, where we're operating within, and that's where your human is actually speaking to a virtual assistant. Think of it like a virtualized employee. It's an employee you don't have to pay unemployment, work, tax, all the wonderful business responsibilities to. Um, and you're going out and asking it to perform tasks. It might be creating dashboards, it might be building an application, it might be building integrations between platforms. That's a level 3 area, and one of the ways that we've come to do that with businesses is utilizing what we call a rapid dashboard. This is the easiest way for us to kind of explain it. Is people are going through, and this is the Rapid Dashboard, just a smaller PC basically, but people
Yeah.
are
So
going through.
that's a physical device that you ship people and they plug into their network.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And it is fully compliant with all the different compliance, whether it's HIPAA, all of those compliance industries. It follows with that. So what you kind of just watched just now here. Go ahead, Dan.
So let me give a little. I don't even know what it's called. I can't think of the word. But let me just say, I have one of those things in my office that I've only had it for, I don't know, a week or two, and I've not actually used it yet or really started trying to implement it. But again, I've spent the last months of my life and a lot of energy building my own AI agents. And when it came to connecting it to my QuickBooks, I said, there's no way. Right. And so I went to Coulee and I was like, hey, this is what I want to accomplish. And they're like, oh, no problem. We have this thing. And so I didn't trust myself after months of having worked on this thing. I went back to them. They sent me the device. It's plugged in. It's in our, network cabinet thing right now because I didn't trust myself and I was not willing to take the risk. But anyway, there you go.
Yeah, so that's great. So what's this is actually showing here is like you're in ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever it might be, and you're pulling in documents from your CRM tool, your accounting tool, maybe your HR or payroll platform, and maybe like your operations PDF that's out of your SharePoint file. You have to pull those all into a singular chat to ask a question to get a response. If you want to ask another question and get the full context of what's there, you got to start a new thread, attach all those documents back to it, and then you're going to get a singular response. And a lot of times to do those kind of things, you're spending some significant time to get the responses you want. Plus, you're a lot of times you're this is the area where you might put information you don't necessarily want out into some of those platforms.
Yeah, without that pro account and those extra precautions and things like that, you might be putting a list of something that has customer information or some kind of crazy stuff like that on it.
Yeah. So what this Rapid Dashboard tool does is it pulls read-only data from these line of business systems or SharePoint or whatever it might be, and it pulls it into what we call a data lake. Think of a data lake like a sandbox that's completely separated from your production environments that you do your day-to-day work in. So it allows you to work securely within this environment, not pulling production data that's going to go back and rewrite those systems. It's totally for the real life data, but it's not communicating back without some further integration. And then we attach an AI tool to it where you can then build out any sort of reporting dashboard that you might want out of there, and you can go through and get it very quickly. You can share that internally with your team, and then they get these real life dashboards that are applicable to your business. So when you're looking at it,
secure and trustworthy and safe.
Yep, 100%. And if you want to really get into for those geekness folk who want to know all the ins and outs of, the compliance codes and things that were built into how this is done, we have a full page dedicated to that, which will go into all the wonderful terms that Dan and I are not going to spend the time going through on this podcast, because he'd have all of his people probably leave at this point. So,
it would turn into nap time.
Turn into nap time. So, right. I won't share any more of that.
Well, hold on. I want to finish the 5 levels. Right. So let's go back. And level 4 and 5 are where things really get cool, right? Yeah, we talked about like level 3, I started building agents, right? And I will say that, sir, I am on the verge of graduating to level 4. I now have been using my agent to build and run apps on Modal, because what happened is my agent was running out of memory, right? So I was asking it to do too many big, heavy things and it was crashing. And so then I went down this path and gave it access to some other tools and some more resources. And so now it's able to like spool up and run its own apps and scripts and things like that. So it's not an agent managing other agents yet, but
You're
man,
close.
I'm getting there. I'm getting close.
Yeah. And why is this important and why are we talking about this today? With workforce trying to, retain employees are getting frustrated because of processes and manual things, taking forever. They have access to these AI and automations in their personal lives, and a lot of businesses out there aren't keeping up with the speed of which what people are doing in their own personal lives. So people are getting frustrated, and there's not an age specific component to this. There's people who are 60, 70-year olds who are getting super excited about this AI thing, all the way down to your teenagers. So, is there probably more of a demographic in the younger generations? Sure. But I'm telling you, from my experience and the people we're interacting with, all age levels are excited about this that want to get involved and learn this. And we did a training with the Boys and Girls Club in a local city, and there was kids a year and a half ago working with AI who don't have computers at home, were building games and things like that through the AI tools, who don't have it in within 15 minutes. And
Man,
those same kids, that if we gave them the tools that are out there right now, they probably and not a probably they could literally make their own businesses with some of the thoughts that they probably have.
um,
And
yeah.
and that's a thing that's happening right now.
So
Is a
there
lot. Go ahead.
there actually is stories of that. What was it? Cal AI or something like that. It was so I guess you would like take a picture of whatever you're gonna eat and you would put it into this app and it would like log how many calories and all the nutrients and everything like that that you were eating. And this dude built this app, and I think he was like 16 or something when he started working on it, right? And he was by the time he graduated high school or immediately after graduating high school, he sold the app, and it's an undisclosed amount of money, but I'm gonna tell you, it's a freaking crap load of money, and he never has to worry about wanting anything again in his life if he chooses to. In fact, like multiple generations of his family will not have to worry about anything. Um, all because he used his creativity and the tools that were available and built an app and saw a need for it. So here's what I was just thinking, Aaron, is so we both have young kids, right? And man, I think about the young kids and their imagination, right? Like my kid, they'll just make up games, right? And they'll just go to town playing some game that they made up, and they just kind of make up the rules as they go and what you're allowed to do and not do and like all of this stuff, right? Think about if they were able to take that creativity and apply it to like building their own games or building tools that did whatever they wanted them to do. Like that's a really crazy thought. Um,
Yeah. I mean, my daughter is 6 now, but when she was 3 and 4, I was having her like I was like I had Chat GPT out, and I had it in conversation mode, and I'm like, hey, talk to this and ask it if you to tell you a story or something, and you give the what you want to hear. And she went through and spoke to it, and it made the story like she wanted, and she was like just super excited and like throwing back that it could do something like that. While
yeah.
that doesn't seem maybe super significant to a lot of people, her early on interactions already with it are that she can take her imagination and put it into a context and have it actually carried out. Like, she's already like, yeah, 6 years old. I haven't done a lot more with her recently with it, but I definitely have had thoughts like, I know the things they're doing in school right now with the tablets, and this is being integrated very young at a much younger age than even the 30 and 40-year olds who are out there now were getting exposed to computers when they came out.
Oh yeah,
So
I remember like I had a pager in my lifetime, right? Because when I was a young kid, I had a pager, and then when I was probably 14 or 15 or something. Like I graduated and got a flip phone that could make phone calls and send text messages, right? And so I mean, that's what's crazy is just to think about the technology that's changed during my lifetime. So take the last 20 years of my life and to see the progression from like flip phones being a thing that became readily available and then going all the way up to today when all this crazy stuff is happening. Okay, so level 4 on your AI
Level
BM.
4 is our AI. It's our AI agent manager. So it's the agent manager. That's where the human actually interacts with basically a virtualized supervisor, and the supervisor communicates with all the AI agents that are out there working on different tasks. So think of it having you have a agent for marketing, maybe, and with that maybe you have an an agent that's going and pulling prospective clients that would be good for your business, another one that's cleaning them, another one that's you know further building out the information and enriching them with the interests of the particular people, and then you have another one who's maybe making calls or answering chats or whatever it is. Dan's dealing with
I'm getting
bugs.
attacked by some bug this whole time.
Yeah.
It's driving me crazy.
And then you got one that's on the operations side. Well, all these agents communicate back to the manager and give reports to the human of what's going on. It's a full department of virtualized staff. And I think a big thing people are going to try to push back on is, oh, it doesn't always get it right. Well, do all of your employees always get it right?
Mm, right.
How many times have you had to go back and tell your employees to do something or how to do something?
Well, and then let's talk about when people leave and you have to start over training a new person and then start over training a new person like over and over again over those years. So that's another thing. And here's like just take the whole we're replacing people with machines out of this equation for a minute. So what are we doing? Right? I believe that by utilizing the technology and the tools that are available, we're maintaining that competitive edge we talked about earlier. But I also think that you could pretty easily find a way that you're going to be able to deliver a higher level of customer experience. Right. So your process for your customer is going to improve by adding efficiencies and adding tools and things like that that are available without replacing people. Right. So the people that you have are still there. Or if you take, like, let's say hypothetically, I built an agent that was a fully automated estimator. Okay. Well, the person or the people who are estimating now, someone's going to have to manage the jobs because if we 100x, which I believe is a realistic thing that you could accomplish by going from me bidding jobs. I've done it for 20 years. And going from me bidding a job to having a really well trained agent or team of agents, I think you could 100x my output. And so if you do that and you maintain your same closing rate, you're going to need more people to manage those jobs, right? And so now I go from bidding jobs to managing jobs that are already sold, which honestly I kind of enjoy more anyway. You get a lot more human interaction that way and people who actually want to answer the phone when you call them. And so like I kind of enjoy that piece of it a little more. And so you're just kind of like shifting stuff around like that, right? Like I don't think it's replacing people as much as is what the fear is.
I would agree. I think some of that is fear mongering to get people, worried and amped up and create further risks on things. And uh, is there going to be some probably displacement in some areas? Yeah, but those people aren't going to go unemployed. They're going to be repurposed into other roles that probably don't even have in some instances here today.
Right.
We always like to go back to the analogy of 100 years ago. When agriculture was the predominant industry in the world. If you told them 100 years later that 90 some more percent of them wouldn't be doing agriculture anymore, that they're going to become lawyers or, you know, entrepreneurs of some aspect or whatever, they would have looked at you like you're dumbfounded.
Yeah, I
And
think it flipped. I think it went from something like 97% of the country was a farmer to 97% of the country is not a farmer. Like
Yeah.
it was something like that. It's a massive change.
Yeah. So as we're talking about this here, so agent manager is managing your agents, and then we get into the level 5 physical integrator. There's some limited examples of this. OpenAI, Figure 3, robot, humanoid robot is an example of that. There's some robotic components that are used in the automotive industry where they've done some of these things.
Let me give you the Coulee Tech example.
Yeah.
There's these guys at this place called Coulee Tech that I know. And so their level 5 example was they have a 3D printer. And so they start with a prompt, and the prompt goes all the way through and it creates a 3D model of the item. And then it, what do they call it? Like layers it or whatever it does to prep it for the 3D printer. And then it 3D prints the piece. So they go from prompt all the way through the process to a physical piece that comes out of a 3D printer. And that is pretty freaking fascinating to me.
Actually, hold on here 1 second. I'm going to be in your ears here. I have our first model actually in my office here of this.
He's going to go get some show and tell for it.
Yep. So this right here, this, you might have paid, or somebody had somebody designed to do this, like individually in all the components. AI from a prompt designed, made, and sent this to the 3D printer. It did all the components without any human interaction. This was the first level 5 example we had, and now we did a bigger one for our corporate office.
Yeah.
And that one, basically, it went to a point where it ran out of plastic for the spool. I'm gonna shut my door here. And it switched over. The AI knew it needed to switch over the spool to the other spool that was on the 3D printer, and it did it all on its own.
So it changed. So now, obviously, you have to have the right 3D printer with the right stuff that's capable of doing that, right? Because I mean, it's not just going to convince some 3D printer that can't do that to do it.
Yeah.
But as long as you have the right hardware and enough patience, I'll tell you, that's one of the biggest things. And that's going to be a huge divide in the world right now. Is if you go down the path of building an AI agent or doing something where you can go from a prompt to a physical 3D printed piece, like you are going to have to be freaking patient, because you're going to screw up about 10,000 times between where you are and where you want to be. And you got to just keep going. I mean, there's been times where I have spent probably days on a single thing that I'm trying to get AI to understand how to do. Whether that's my own agent, developer tool, like whatever it is, spent freaking days, and it keeps doing it wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong, and then eventually it gets it right, and it's like, holy cow, that is such a relief, right? But it can be super frustrating.
In that instance too, though, it probably came down to just having the right prompt and working through the scenarios. Maybe a little QA in there, but
maybe
even still, like, to give a example though, to have whatever you were doing there done and have that hired out, like if a human was to do that, you'd be spending some significant money to have that function done and take over. So and the thing is Dan isn't stopping. It's not like Dan's focusing his entire day. He spent days at this, right? He spends maybe a couple minutes here and there where he goes and puts in some prompts or some tweaks. He gets alerts as his stuff gets done. He's going and running his business still and doing everything the business needs to be done while these things are off to the side.
I spent a decent bit of time, but no, I'm still doing other stuff. And so to your point about if you had a human do it, so specifically in the developer world, here's the difference. Before AI, when I would go to Aaron and the team at Coulee Tech, and I would say, hey, I want to build this thing. I want to change this. I want to add this. I want to do whatever. And I would try my best to explain it and like make screenshots and videos and all of this other stuff. And then they would go to work on something. And I'm like, oh no, that's not what I had in mind. Right. And then, so it would be like a month from the time we talked about it until I got the thing and was able to say, no, that's not what I had in mind. Change this, and this. And then here we go again, another 2 or 3 weeks or another month or whatever. So with AI, when I do it, it's 10 minutes, maybe. And then it shows it to me and I'm like, no, that's not what I had in mind. And then, we just kind of keep going back and forth. And so we get from concept to version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 50, however many versions it takes, like before I could even get a meeting scheduled with Coulee. Right. And that's being dramatic, but you get what I'm saying. Like it still happens so fast and it's a very small fraction of the cost. I mean, we complain about it and we get frustrated about AI not doing great. But then when you step back and you remember, oh, wait a minute, let me think about how it was 2 or 3 years ago. And like, it's a world of difference. It's crazy.
And I know we're coming up here on the top of our hour here. I just want to reiterate for everybody who's listening to the AI we're dealing with today is the dumbest AI we're ever going to interact with. Like the things it can do for the entire world it's the dumbest state it's ever going to be in right now. It's only going to continue to improve. There are the naysayers who have their negative connotations towards it, and we could get into a whole nother podcast or four probably on some of those subjects. But the positives, like anything else, all are there as well. And there's so many positives, and the way it's going to transform the business world, and it is already, is dramatic. And I promise you, if you're a naysayer out there, your competition up the road is using it. If you're not using it,
or that person that's never even been in business before is using it and they're building a business from the ground up on AI's back right now.
It's happening. So if you don't know what to do, you're frustrated, there's people to talk to, whether it's Dan, whether it's reaching out to us. We do a monthly workshop. It's virtual. It's free for people to attend. It's the first Friday of every month from 8 a.m. I think till 9 a.m. So first Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. virtual. I did include the link here for Dan to include when he posts this, if he's able to there. You could join up with that. You could hear about the things we're talking on. Dan joins a lot of time and is talking about the things he's doing. We have people from a variety of industries. We have tech colleges, university, instructors, you name it. We have people showing up. We're doing presentations for high level leadership in various areas for our nation, and we have a lot of very areas that we're helping out and trying to move the needle on this revolution. So it's important. It make a big change in your lives and your businesses if you do take the first couple steps with it and get going on it. And if you don't know what you're doing, there's people here to help you out.
Yep. And you can, like I said earlier, just ask ChatGPT, right? So when I'm in that scenario where I spend 2 or 3 days and get frustrated trying to get it to do something, like I might be using a cursor, right? And I'll go between 3 or 4 different models in cursor. And then I'll ask, hey, cursor, give me a summary of what we've tried, what's going on, what's wrong. And I'll go to ChatGPT or I'll go to somewhere else and just kind of have a conversation about it too. So like I'll kind of bounce back and forth around between 2 or 3 or 4 different, AI tools all at the same time just to try to help. So Aaron, the thing I want to talk about the history of AI for a second. All right. And I know we're like out of time right now, so you can just end the call if you need to. But I want to run through this stuff because I did the research and I want to share it with the world.
Let's do it.
All right. So AI, there was actually a Dartmouth University summer research project on AI in 1956. And Dartmouth described it as the birth of AI as a field. So 1956. Now you can imagine what it was, right? It was nothing like what we have access to today. These were in the days where, that computer was the size of a house or a building or, whatever it is. But that's where it started. And then after that, there was a period called the AI winter. Okay. So, immediately everybody got excited, like back in the 50s. And then you could probably have some pretty fun conspiracy conversations about the government involvement stuff, right?
Yeah.
Around that, but we'll skip all that. So there was the AI winters, okay, and this is a long period where funding and enthusiasm and everything dried up because the technology just didn't exist to support AI progressing. Well, then in 1997, IBM's Deep Blue beat a fella named Gary Kasparov. Hopefully, I said that kind of somewhat right. So it beat him at chess. He was the chess world champion. And again, that AI was not like the LLMs of today's world, like your chat GPTs or any of that kind of stuff, right? It's nothing like that. It was an extremely specialized machine that was built for one purpose to beat that guy at chess, and it did it. And that's crazy. So then things started moving just a hair faster, right? So we went from 1956 all the way to 1997. And then from 97 to 2012, we had AlexNet in 2012. And so AlexNet proved that deep learning, neural networks, things along those lines could be useful patterns. And, if you gave enough data and enough computing power to AI. Well, 2012 wasn't that long ago, but the computing power that we had then versus what we have now is drastically different. Okay. So then in 2016, Google DeepMind AlphaGo beat a guy named Lee Sedol 4-1 at a game called Go. I don't know about this game. I've never heard of it before today. I didn't have enough time to really look it up, but Go is considered much more difficult for the computer to win than chess was because apparently there's a massive number of possible moves that it could make. And so that was a big move in the AI world. And it was reported, I think Google or maybe the DeepMind team or something like that said 200 million people watched. That's crazy to me if that's true.
Yeah.
So then in 2000, now remember that was in 2016. So now in 2017, there was a paper published by Google called Attention is All You Need. Now, this paper introduced the transformer architecture, which was the foundation of LLMs. Okay, it was a way to handle language and context, training at scale, things like that, much better than the AI could before. All right, so now we've made it all the way from 1956 to 2017 before we're even really getting close to like an LLM that we know today. And then, so I'm going to run through this really quick. OpenAI makes ChatGPT, okay? And so GPT-1 was a proof of concept that they came up with, made, released, whatever word goes here, in June of 2018. All right, so 2017 was the Attention is All You Need paper. 2018, GPT-1 rolls out. Then GPT-2 in 2019. So this is when it could actually start to write a little bit. Okay, and then GPT-3 in 2020. And this is when it started to feel a little bit more like a general purpose tool, but it was still super specialized, right? This is only like researchers, engineers, stuff like that would even know how to use this thing. So then Chat GPT or GPT 3.5 was in November of 2022. And this is when AI actually was released in a way that is usable to the common people. November of 2022. Like it's not been that long. And then, GPT-4 came out in March of 2023. So we went from November. Think about that. We had GPT-1. Okay, I'm just going to say the numbers. 1 in 2018, 2 in 2019, 3 in 2020. And then it wasn't until late 2022, November of 2022, was 3.5 in ChatGPT. And then from there, by March 2023, we had 4. Right. And now, man, it seems like every week or two, there's a new model that rolls out, or at least every month. Right. And so then they started doing like the 4.0, 4.1, 4.2, and like they started getting, more than just 1, 2, 3, 3.5, 4. They started putting all these other numbers behind it. Right. But anyway, 2022 ChatGPT, and they called it a conversational model, right? Because it could actually answer questions and it could admit that it made mistakes. And I think one of the biggest key things was there was an actual user interface. Like I said, before it was all engineers and researchers and like specialty kind of stuff, right? But now there's a user interface. And so us common folks had our first opportunity to see AI and actually use it.
And that's what I was talking about, the interaction I did with my daughter at that point. So
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about that.
Yeah. And so Replit, so I guess Replit, from what I understand, was the first like vibe coding, no code app builder kind of tool that was released to the public, right? And so that was in October of 2022, which is funny. Oh no, sorry. In October of 2022, Replit released a coding assistant called Ghostwriter. All right. And so they had started working on a coding platform in 2016. And then Ghostwriter was an assistant. And then their company really took off when Replit Agent came out in 2024. It was only 2024, and Replit was the first, right? I listened to a podcast that had the guy that was the founder of Replit, and he said that people from OpenAI and Anthropic were calling him, and they were like, man, we didn't know models could do that stuff. Right. And so like they were using other people's models in ways that they didn't even know was a thing or they hadn't intended on them being used. So pretty cool, and massive amounts of change. And it's changing so much faster now because, now AI is building the next version of itself. And so it's kind of like snowballing, right? To where AI can work faster and build the next version faster than we can.
Yeah, its versioning is done on its own. It's doing the optimization itself with human oversight, but the humans aren't doing the coding these days in most of these aspects.
Well, I mean, they can't, right? Yep. Kind of going back to what you're talking about with the race, like there's no way that humans could do it because we went from Opus 4.7 like 3 weeks ago or maybe a month ago, and now we're on 4.8 today, and like it just keeps going.
And we know before June or before July, there will be another model.
Yeah, guaranteed. What's the Anthropic model that they're trying to figure out how to release? There's another one.
5, I think it's Opus 5, but
well, no, it has some different name, not Opus.
I know I've seen it, but I can't think of it right now. I'd have to look it up myself.
Yeah, I can't remember. But anyway, crazy stuff happening. It's really cool. The history of it's pretty fascinating. It goes back way longer than what most people realize. But
there's so many resources out there about it. You can check it out yourself if you're really interested in the history of things.
Yeah, but there's a high level. So I'm done with my history for today.
He's done with his history.
All right. And I think we're done here, right? That's it.
I think that's it, man. I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, today. Man. For sure. I appreciate you being here. It's been really fun. It's been great. And hopefully everyone enjoys this, and I'll see you next time.